KFI AM 640. You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly. On demand on the iHeartRadio app. Want to be upfront. I love my conversations with Micheal Monks. If you listen to me on Later with Mo Kelly, Micheal Monks, KFI's own Micheal Monks, usually comes in and we'll discuss all things Los Angeles, specifically the Metro. We have this relationship now. We understand each other. Micheal Monks, it's good to see you this morning.
Hey, it's good to see you too. And you know, today is Metro's State of the Agency presentation. That's coming up at 1 o'clock. So we might have to connect on your show tomorrow night if you're back.
Yeah. I'm not going to do my show tonight. Sorry. That was on from 7 to 10 last night. Now it's 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. today. I'm trying to get a little time off.
Get that overtime.
The reason why I'm talking to you today is because the city of Los Angeles has moved to join this lawsuit against immigration raids. And this lawsuit, which was filed last week by the ACLU of Southern California, has accused ICE and other federal agencies of using racial profiling tactics, conducting warrantless arrests, denying people access to lawyers, and holding those arrested in poor conditions. Those are the allegations. LA is joining other cities like Culver City, LA County, Montebello, Monterey Park, Pasadena, Pico Rivera, Santa Monica, and West Hollywood. Big picture, what does this mean?
Well, that's the foundation of the argument here, because the local governments cannot stop federal immigration enforcement. They can impede it with some local policies like sanctuary city status. They're not necessarily cooperating with the federal enforcement, but they can't physically block the actions. They can't bar the officials from being here. You're seeing some movement at the state level and even at the local level to have some of these federal agents take their mask off. They don't necessarily have that authority. That will be for courts to decide. The argument that these municipalities in the county are making is these federal immigration agents have often violated the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution. They are targeting people based solely on their race, and they are targeting people without due process. They don't necessarily have warrants in many of these cases. So what is prompting these folks to stop?
What's the probable cause?
Street vendors, people working at the car wash, if they don't have a warrant specific to somebody on that property.
We also know that this is running parallel to Senator Alex Padilla, who's pushing a bill in Congress as far as forcing ICE agents to identify themselves. How much, though, from where you sit, seems more like theater or actually something with teeth that might gain traction?
You see a lot of passion at LA City Hall about what's happening in the city because you've got a city council and a mayor who are highly sympathetic to the illegal immigrant population here in Los Angeles and Southern California. So you have seen tears from public officials here. You've seen great concern about them. But a lot of it has to be theater because of what we just talked about.
Right.
They don't have the authority to do what they really want to do. You hear Mayor Bass flat out say it. We want these ICE raids to stop. Well,
but I can't do anything, so all I can do is express my desires.
It's the old phrase, want in one hand and you know what in the other, and see which one fills up faster. Right. So she can't. I mean, she can ask, but she can't demand it. As far as theater goes, though, I think the greatest show that we've seen since all of this started in early June was in MacArthur Park on Monday, and that truly was theater, full of production
on
value.
both sides, because you had the show of force, but nobody detained. And then you have the mayor showing up and doing nothing except getting on a phone with an unnamed individual. And it seemed like neither side, my characterization, accomplished anything.
It almost seemed as if there was no plan to accomplish anything on the federal government side. It's still unclear what exactly they were doing there, why the nature of that presentation, the horseback, the military vehicles in a place that is known for having a high population of immigrants, probably of varying statuses. Mm-hmm. But there's also the suspicion on behalf of the federal government that that area, MacArthur Park, is the site of manufacturing and distribution of fake IDs for illegal immigrants. So that's where a lot of people go. So if that's what brought them down, they certainly didn't pursue anyone. But for the mayor to show up as quickly as she did, especially when she was supposed to be somewhere else, the governor was here in town. They were noting the 6-month mark since the wildfires. She did not end up going to that press conference at all. She did a beeline for MacArthur Park and calls the scene that she did, and probably agree or disagree with what her position is. She may have won some political points from supporters and people who may be sympathetic to her position because it did have the air that Mayor Bass showed up and the federal people turned around and left.
Well, optics are a large part of politics, but also a part of what I call the political theater are these public pronouncements that there may be an attempt to arrest the mayor. And the mayor has basically said, yeah, I would like to see you try, in so many words. Now, I always wonder, where is that line? Do we understand where the line is between asking and actually obstructing?
Well, there's also the line of what is too far, what is too much. If they arrest Karen Bass, I know there are a lot of people who may be listening to us right now who would love to see.
Well, that goes back to want and
exactly right. I mean, whether there are actual enforceable charges to put against her and to put her in handcuffs, irrelevant to whether some people would enjoy seeing that.
Agreed.
But you know who else might enjoy seeing that? Karen Bass and her supporters, for the same reason that she might have scored political points on Monday. Can you imagine being handcuffed and taken to jail for the cause that you believe in? I mean, look how much political capital President Trump got when his mugshot came out.
Yes.
You know, there were people who longed to see a president mugshot because they believed he committed so many crimes. Well, then it comes out, now he's back in the White House.
Well, let's not forget, Karen Bass, Mayor Bass, is running for re-election presently. And that election is less than a year away.
She is somebody politically damaged by the wildfires, regardless of the merits of the criticism about the fact that she was on a diplomatic voyage to Ghana when it happened. She wasn't going to join the Bucket Brigade. I think reasonable people can understand, but she had some miscues and some misfires during the fires from a communication standpoint. Politically damaged. You see some, the sharks are circling to jump into this race possibly, like Rick Caruso, for example, who they have a case to run against her now based on that. She's got this issue now, and she is going to play it politically as best she can. That's not to say that her position is disingenuous, but there are political victories to be had with what she's doing, and that is probably one of the main reasons you saw her at MacArthur Park, because the more that supporters and would-be supporters see her on the front lines, especially if she gets handcuffed and hauled away, the more they're going to rally behind her. Or physically
mishandled.
Exactly.
I know you're not necessarily here in a law capacity or a legal capacity, but I do want to get your thoughts about these lawsuits, which seemingly never go anywhere, seemingly never change anything, seemingly don't move the needle in any way.
Sometimes they do. There are certainly politically motivated lawsuits. We see this no matter who is in the White House. You might see red-oriented states suing the Attorney General, the president, all the time over this or that policy. Right now, there's a Republican in the White House, so there are a lot of Democratic states, namely California, that are very lawsuit happy right now against those policies. Sometimes injunctions are granted on those issues. I think it's important to keep in mind the strategy and what we know about this lawsuit, which, by the way, was originally filed by the ACLU on these constitutional grounds, and these municipalities locally are joining that. They're focused. They're not saying you can't do immigration enforcement. They're saying you cannot do it like this. You cannot violate the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution, and that is what the legal experts and the judges will have to determine.
My cynicism aside, for this issue, I was wondering if you could hang around for one more segment so we could discuss LA Metro and this recent survey that they published that Metro riders supposedly are more concerned about sanitary conditions than they are their own personal safety.
I brought in notes just in case you asked.
My brother, my friend, Micheal Monks joins us in studio. It's Gary and Shannon and Mo Kelly in for Gary and Shannon, KFI AM 640 live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
And I'm right in the middle of a conversation with KFI's own Micheal Monks. And Michael and I, when we sit on my show Later with Mo Kelly, we often talk about LA Metro. And to give someone some backstory, I talk often about LA Metro, and they evidently hear that I talk about LA Metro often. And LA Metro has reached out to you, Micheal Monks, trying to somehow have you be their go-between with me to soften how I may speak of LA Metro. So that just further incensed me and encouraged me to go in on LA Metro. The latest, I talked about this a little bit last night, want to get your thoughts. LA Metro users, according to LA Metro and their app, as far as, their suggestions box, want increased frequency and improved cleanliness, but less spent on policing. I call that fake news BS last night.
Well, it may be real news because it is the actual results of this survey, but there is a difference between just collecting feedback from people that you've solicited and a scientific survey that balances for race and income and different types of demographics and weights certain ideologies, like you see in presidential polling. That's not what happened here. And LA is a city that, if anything, has a lot of activists in it who are well organized and well oiled. We see it with the immigration protest. These folks are fast. They know what to do. They know where to be. They have a plan. You have a lot of activists in this community who are, one, against any expansion of policing and against policing in a lot of ways in general. You also have a lot of advocates on behalf of the transit system.
That's a great point.
Who probably, when this solicitation came out, please give your feedback to LA Metro, sent out the bullet to all of their people and urged them to reply. These are folks who don't want police on Metro, who want the fares to be free, and who seem, when I hear them speak at board meetings and those sorts of things, often seem truly ignorant of the experience of regular Angelenos who may not be advocates but rely on the system.
But that included you.
It did and does.
How should I... My cynicism is just overflowing right now. When Metro puts something out like this, and is in stark contrast to the news that not only we report, but everyone else reports, and what's highlighted at their own press conferences. When I'm talking about what's going on at Metro, it usually has to do with someone getting shanked, someone getting killed, some homeless person being assaulted, some regular person being assaulted every single day, someone dying on the tracks. I mean...
Well, look, this is why they get mad at you, because it's not every single day, but here's what does happen every day. And we've talked about this. Someone's not getting murdered. It's happened. God knows it's happened.
Yes.
But it is often an environment where you feel like someone might be. You know what I mean? That's what I don't hear a lot about from the officials, is how do you change not just the perception of Mo Kelly in a studio in Burbank, how do you change the perception of the abuela who is riding to Azusa because that's where she works, who feels like something bad is about to happen on this train? It doesn't mean that something has or will, but as long as there is drug activity taking place, as long as there are folks who are threatening or having manic episodes, that does happen every single day on the Metro system. And that's why you hear folks saying we do need more policing there. And you know who's heard that message? Metro. So in spite of the survey that shows a plurality or a majority of people saying we don't want more policing, not only is there going to be more policing, it's not going to be the LAPD, it's not going to be the Sheriff's Department, it's not going to be Long Beach, it's going to be Metro's own police department, because they have heard the complaints and said it's time to bring back our own police force.
And it's not just Metro trains. We're talking about buses.
Absolutely.
We're talking about platforms. And as a former rider of Metro, I know that there are a lot of platforms which are just open to the general public. You're not going through a turnstile. You're not using a tap fare card to have access to a Metro platform. You are exposed. And if you were, when I was riding Metro, yeah, you would see the LA County Sheriff's Department off in the distance sitting in their car. I guess if you started screaming, they might be able to get out of their car and run a good 400 yards to where you are. But that's not a serious answer.
No. And when I first moved here in 2023, and it was exclusively a transit user, the trains and the buses, I had to buy a knife. You know, I did.
Can you say that on the radio?
I hope so.
Okay.
Am I breaking any rules?
You just bought a knife.
I didn't use it.
Yeah, you didn't use it.
I'm not a suspect in any crime. But I was riding the A line to Long Beach. And it was the only time, really, since I moved here, in spite of those feelings, like, yeah, something bad could happen, it feels weird. It was the only time I was truly scared, because some tough-looking dude with no shirt on gets on the train and is clearly high on drugs,
yes,
and is expressing violent thoughts at me. Out of all the passengers in the car, I'm the guy that he singled out. And I thought, if he comes towards me, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I realized I don't want to be in that position again. I'm going to have to be armed. What concerns me is because there were no securities. And the Metro ambassadors, they're nice at giving you directions to which train you should get on.
They're not taking a bullet for you.
Exactly. If you're suffering an overdose, they know how to do the what do they call it? The overdose reversal. But they're not armed. they're not going to protect me from that guy. And I thought, I'm never going to be in that position again where I feel defenseless. I'm not going to be able to take down a cracked out dude who's targeted me for some reason. I'm going to have a weapon. Now, they have put weapons detection in place at Union Station and a few other stations, and they may expand that. So I thought, I don't know if I'll be able to take my knife on board anymore because I'll look like a guy trying to bring a weapon on the train.
I carry with me at all times, and I have no problem saying this. No problem saying this. Non-metal weapons.
Yeah, but you know martial arts too. Like, I wouldn't mess with you.
No. But
I'd probably get a hit in. I'll tell you. I would probably strike
martial
you.
arts is thinking about things before they happen. It's about avoiding physical confrontation, because a physical confrontation means someone gets hurt, you might get killed. Even if you win, you might get sued, you might get injured. There are too many variables that you cannot control. But I do carry non-metal weapons with me, and I have no problem saying that. If only because, one, I'm not a physically large guy, and I need something to even out the circumstances in a given situation. So
what's a non-metal weapon? Can we say that? I don't want to get us in trouble. I don't know all the rules.
Yeah, well, the Korean terminology for it is called a danbong, which is like a short stick.
Oh,
and it's blunt. It's not bladed.
I bet you would beat the hell out of somebody with that.
Oh, I would. I would, and I know how to use it.
I have no doubt.
Yeah, and it's a blunt object. It's about maybe 5 inches long. And
if I came at you, because I was joking about being able to get a strike, and I know I wouldn't, but if I came at you and I'm on drugs and you're on the bus and I've decided Mo Kelly's my problem right now, and I'm coming at you, and I might not have a weapon, but I'm going to hit you. I'm going to do something to you. How quickly am I going to feel that stick?
Oh, immediately. For me, I know we got to go to break and go to Deborah Mark, but let me just say this. For me, a physical confrontation has begun. The fight has begun the moment I feel that you might be able to reach me. If you are close enough to strike me, the actual fight has already begun. I probably told you I need you to step back at that point. And if you step into my space, the fight has already begun.
Yeah.
And I'd probably use the danbong, go straight to your throat.
Can you show me how to use that?
Absolutely.
At friend and family rate? Absolutely.
I wish I had one in here. If you hang around for a bit, we ought to do like a video.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Okay. When we come back, we're going to also speak to Heather Brooker. She has some information and some interesting tidbits about Comicon, which is coming up in just a week or so. KFI AM 640, Gary and Shannon Show.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
I'm in for Gary and Shannon today until 1 p.m. And something that we do discuss on my show, we talk about all things movies. Sometimes we talk about Comic-Con and different festivals. We were just talking about the big controversy as far as the new Superman movie and how it's being received by those who are looking at it through a political lens. All sorts of conversations. So I'm looking forward to this next conversation with KFI's own Heather Brooker, who's just in the newsroom.
Just in the newsroom.
And now you're in the main studio.
That's right. I'm moving up.
Comic-Con is coming up very soon. Now, from what I know, it may be a very different Comic-Con because I've been hearing a lot of the major studios are not having formal presentations this year.
Well, I've heard those rumors too, but I'm not sure that's entirely true. I think that's what a lot of fans are saying. Oh, there's not going to be a big Marvel movie. Well, there is no big, you've got Fantastic Four, but I don't know.
Which will be after the fact.
Which is after Comic-Con, yeah. So there isn't a big Marvel movie that comes out right before Comic-Con. I feel like Disney has pulled back in years, and Marvel has pulled back in the past few years because at San Diego Comic-Con, because of their presence at their own fan convention, D23. They're really trying to beef up D23 and make that the go-to con for all things Marvel and Disney and all the Disney properties. But Comic-Con itself is still going to be very much Comic-Con in the way that we know it. There's going to be your cosplay contest. There's going to be fashion shows. There's going to be lots of panels. Some of the shows that are going to be there, I want to make sure I mention these. Abbott Elementary is doing something really fun this year. There's going to be access and stars from The Boys, Fallout, Star Trek.
I love The Boys.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's so dark.
For those who don't know, The Boys is on Amazon Prime, and it imagines a world with superheroes who are all a-holes and under this corporate god, the Vought company, and they've been engineered. It's like, what would happen if superheroes were capitalism-based?
Right. It's a capitalistic superhero society, and we're all at the mercy of these superheroes and their whims, if you will. But Comicon this year it starts in 2 weeks, July 24th through the 27th. I had the opportunity to talk to David Glanzer, who is a spokesperson for SD Comicon, and he tells me there's going to be over 150 panels this year. Of course, major studios are going to be there: Prime Video, AMC, Paramount, Disney will be there. Disney Television is going to have a large presence. And he told me, I'm excited to be talking with you about this because I know you are an expert in Comic-Con, and this is, your lane. I know you love this. Also, did you notice I brought in this cup? Do you know what this is from?
Yes, that's from the TVA of season 1 or 2 of Loki.
That's right. I'm so nerdy, and I was like, I'm so glad I'm be talking to Mo today because I have my Loki coffee cup with me. But David said that the thing to keep in mind this year is so many of the activations are happening outside as well as inside. So if you don't have your passes, if you don't have access or way to get in the convention center, there's a lot happening outside. Abbott Elementary is having a very Abbott block party, which sounds like a lot of fun. They're going to have authentic Philly water ice, lawn games, a Ferris wheel. Alien Earth is going to be there. That's FX's show, Alien Earth, The Wreckage. They're going to have an immersive sci-fi activation outside the Hilton Bayfront. King of the Hill is having a yard cookout.
Hank!
Yeah, Hank. And Percy Jackson, there's going to be the Percy Jackson experience. There is going to be, you can wander in the Sea of Monsters mist. And then there's going to be a ton of TV panels and celebrities there. 13 major panels. You've got Phineas and Ferb. Phineas and Ferb is going to be there with the cast and the creators there. Just a lot of fun, a lot of things happening down in Comic-Con. And 130,000 people go to that event every year. Isn't that wild?
It is wild, but it is a great time. And you made a great point, I think, should be highlighted. You think, well, I don't have a badge. I can't get into the main the convention center. Mm-hmm. What's there for me? If you've never been, let me explain it like this. It's a campus. Yeah. It takes over a lot of that area going into Gaslamp. There are plenty things to do, and you need not have a badge to enjoy them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just being there, like if you're a fan of, this kind of thing, of pop culture, Comic-Con culture, just being there and being in the presence of other fans, there's something fun and exciting. There's an energy to it. My family and I have gone for many years. We won't be able to go this year, though, which just makes me sad. But there's an energy to it, an energy to the event. And it's certainly a spectacle, too. I love people watching. When you go down there, do you love to people watch?
I love to people watch and costume watch.
Yes. Yeah. People spend a lot of money and time on creating their costumes for Comic-Con, and that's why they have the big cosplay contest. Have you ever dressed up when you go to Comic-Con?
I did. The first time I went to Comic-Con, I was Afro Samurai. If you know that, it's an anime character played by Samuel L. Jackson, voiced by Samuel L. Jackson. Yep.
Yeah, and so you don't dress up anymore. You're like, no, I'm just gonna.
It is an effort. It's an effort to get down there. It's an effort to get hotel accommodations. It's an effort to walk through. If you're trying to get from one place to another, and it's like, okay, at 9:15 I want to see this panel. Well, but at 9:45 I want to see this other panel. You have to plan in advance because you're not going to see both.
You do. You have to pick and choose what you want to see, what panels you want to go to. And on the hotel front, when I spoke to David today, he said that it's getting more and more challenging for people to get hotel rooms. I know I've talked to Swala about this before. I think you and I have talked about this before. Securing a hotel room, especially through the con itself, where they have like those discounted rates and they're not price surging like a lot of the hotels are, is an Olympic sport. And this year they're getting even fewer discounted hotels rooms from the hotel partners. And that's a frustration for the organizers there, because they're like, we are a fan-driven event. We need fans to be able to come here and afford to come here and not have to drop $3,000 or $4,000 on a room.
Oh, you're being nice. It's straight up price gouging.
It is 100%. Yeah. It is 100% price gouging from the hotels and things like that down there. So if you can find a way to buddy up, share a room with somebody or a couple of people. Like that's generally what a lot of people going to the cons do now. And that way you can save just a little bit of money.
Can I make one other recommendation? There was one year I actually took the train down and drove down each day because the cost of gas and the time spent was less than having to deal with the hotel aspect and paying the hundreds, if sometimes thousands of dollars more.
Yeah, it's definitely, and from LA here, it's really convenient to jump on the train at Union Station and then head straight down
Pacific
into
Surfliner.
There you go. And that's one easy way to get down there. The con starts in 2 weeks from today. I talked to David Glanzer today, and you can listen to the entire interview and conversation that we had on the Entertain Me podcast. It was such a blast and he shared a few more of his insider tips as well.
Heather Brooker, it's always great to talk to you.
You too, Mo. Thank you.
When we come back, we have to talk about LA, and get this, the murder rate has gone in a extremely downward motion.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
I'm Mo Kelly in for Gary and Shannon. Just today, it's like, oh my God, who is this guy? Who is this guy on the radio today? He sounds black. Who allowed this? What's the number to KFI? I need to call in. This needs to stop. I love you too. Let's talk about LA. I've been a resident of LA or its unincorporated areas for all of my life. The actual city of LA or unincorporated LA all of my life, with the exception of going to college in Washington, D.C. And I've seen it, the ups and downs. I fully acknowledge the warts and its shortcomings. But as Randy Newman said, I love LA. And when you love LA, you love it in spite of itself sometimes. You love it knowing good and well. Like, let's say if you've been married, you love your spouse, but sometimes your spouse gets on your damn nerves. Let's be honest. Sometimes you love your spouse in spite of themselves. And I would say that's my relationship with LA. I'm born in LA. I was born in LA, California Hospital downtown, and I've lived all my life in LA except for college. I'm an Angelino through and through. There's nothing anyone can tell me about LA that I don't already know. Living in various neighborhoods from Studio City to West LA to Harbor City to now in the city of LA itself. LA is on pace to see its lowest homicide rate in nearly 60 years. In other words, that's just a little bit longer than how long I've been alive. Its lowest homicide rate possibly in my lifetime. And homicides across LA City, not talking county, fell by more than 20% in the first half of the year thus far, and it's on pace to end 2025 with its lowest total for that crime category in nearly 60 years, and this is according to the LAPD. And crime is not one size fits all. I mean, you can talk about homicides, and that doesn't negate the other forms of violent crime. And also, although violent crime is persisting in parts of the city, according to the story, homicides have dropped. Numerically, 116 as of June 28th, compared to 152 same period last year. And there's no amount which is acceptable. And I know that's what some people say. It should not be even over 1. I agree. But this actually goes back to a conversation I was having with Micheal Monks when he was in studio with me, and we were talking about the metro and the idea of safety. Hey, Kiana, is that a video up yet?
I am fixing it up right now.
Micheal Monks and I, as an aside, we were in the hallway, and he had asked me near the end of the segment what I would do if someone approached me on a metro subway train. And I said, I always carry a non-lethal, non-metal weapon on me that I can use at any time. And I was demonstrating some things with him with just a marker, an actual highlighter in the hallway. We're going to post that video. But the point was, safety oftentimes has to do with how you feel. Talk about feel safe. It's not about statistics. You can give me any number of statistics about how crime is down on the metro. It all comes down to whether I feel safe on the metro, and that varies from person to person. And that's true here. It's like I can celebrate the statistics of there being fewer homicides in the city of Los Angeles. And a reasonable person will agree. Yes, it's always good when homicides are down. When homicides are fewer this year than last year, that is better for everyone. That has nothing to do with politics. That has to do with good common sense. Fewer homicides is better than more homicides. Now, we can go back and forth as to the reasons why. We can go back and forth as to who might deserve the credit. But all I'm saying is homicides are down, and that is a good thing. But as far as how people feel, I don't necessarily feel any differently. And I say that because I've lived in this city for all of my life. Safety has to do with how someone feels. In other words, if I didn't see this story, if I didn't see these numbers, if I didn't know the stats, would my feeling about LA be any different? Because that's what's most important. It's not like you're going to leave your doors unlocked because you saw a story. Hey, robberies are down this year. I think I can leave my house and let my doors be unlocked because robberies are down, burglaries are down. I have nothing to worry about. No, it doesn't work that way. We don't live our lives relative to statistics. We live our lives relative to our general experiences and how we feel. And I tell my wife all the time, hey, I don't feel comfortable with you walking the dogs in certain areas and neighborhoods. And there are no statistics which are going to change that. I have a responsibility for my wife, my family, and those who depend on me. And I'm not going to hold a piece of paper in front of her face and say, hey, dear, honey, homicides are down. I think you should be okay now. You can go ahead and walk outside at 2 a.m., even take the dogs with you. No, that's not how safety works. Safety is about preparing for the possibility. And safety is not putting yourself in positions where you are more vulnerable. The reason I'm talking about this, things can have multiple meanings. We can celebrate the fact that there are fewer homicides here in the city of Los Angeles. And we can and should celebrate that with no respect to who gets the credit or who gets the blame. Because often, and this goes back to the very first conversation we had today at the top of the show, people are more focused on assessing blame, parsing blame, or someone getting credit. If the stock market goes up, so-and-so gets the credit. Or the stock market goes down, so-and-so president gets the blame. Because those were our motivations. We start with the conclusion and then work our way back, as a friend told me, because we want the end result to align with our worldview. Me, I try to be a little more distant. I try to look at the stats for what they are. It's like, oh, that's nice. Oh, that's good. It gives us a quantitative analysis of sometimes of the amount of crime in Los Angeles, but that's about where it ends. Homicides are down in LA. Let's all put our hands together and clap. Yay, yay, yay. Fewer people are getting murked in the city of LA. Yay, yay, yay. I don't care who gets the credit. May it just been random. It may have been luck. It may have been a function of the weather. It may have been a function of people weren't driving as much because gas was higher. Who knows? Who cares? But it's something that we can look at and over a larger period of time and see if there's a continuing trend where it continues to decline. And then we can say, hey, maybe we're in a better place now than maybe 2 or 3 years ago. So on one hand, you can say, take it for what it's worth, but it's not the whole world. LA, I love you with all my heart, but you can still do better. It's the Gary and Shannon Show. I'm Mo Kelly in for Gary and Shannon. We're going to find out what's happening in the swamp when we come back. KFI AM 640, we're live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app.
You've been listening to Later with Mo Kelly. You can always hear us live on KFI AM 640, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. every Monday through Friday, and anytime on demand on the iHeartRadio app.